and welcome. Peace, love, pause, and with Bobbi in the boarding room. I'm Bobbi Wilson, and I have with me today Melody, and I'm with Unchained Melodies Dog Rescue here in Columbia. You might know her at their group as UMDR, so we hear that a lot. Right?
Yeah.
I love it. Melody is going to give us some information about dogs. And so I feel like that you have really gone in, done a lot of different things to highlight the organization and through the community and with all of the people that you have involved with you. I feel like that you do a lot of things. And I don't think people realize how much stuff that you do and how much community involvement that you have. And then the kind of missions that you guys have and what you really feel like is part of what you need to do as a whole to provide excellent service for dogs, correct? So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do to get yourself out there and get seen in the community?
Oh my, okay. So we're really, really busy.
Yeah.
One of the things that has really kind of catapulted our exposure, if you will, is when we got our building back in 2018. We had a very small portion of that building for a long time, and sometimes I wonder, how did we get all the dogs and all of our stuff in that tiny little space? And then the business that was next to us moved out, and we were offered the whole building. So now we have our 5,000 square foot building. We do refer to it as our training center. We don't just stockpile dogs in there. It's not an open shelter open to the public for viewing our dogs. All of our dogs are in foster homes that are available for adoption.
Okay.
But that building does have our training center, which we do our training classes. It also has our nursery where we house our puppies, mama and puppies. Our office is there now, so we can do meet and greets there and meet with donors and anybody that wants to come in and tour the facility. That's available too. And then we have the other end of the building. We refer to that as the Oasis, and that has another story to it. That's what the business was before we moved in there, and we just kept the name because it's kind of the oasis for our dogs. The dogs come off chains and pens. They come from abuse and neglect situations. They go there first. They get assessed and vetted. They get some quick training, leash walking, and things like that before initial vetting before they go to a foster home.
I see. Okay.
So that's our building. So that has really helped get us out there. Our training classes have become very popular. We partner with Kai Murphy from the Devoted Dog. And our classes, we've added some classes because they pretty much sell out almost every time. Awesome. So that's another thing. And then, of course, the nursery with the puppies. The puppies get a lot of attention. And we have amazing volunteers that come up with these themes for puppies. And we do a lot of outreach with the puppies. Yes, they're cute, but they also bring a lot of soothing, comfort, and stress relief to a lot of the businesses around town, including, some of the assisted living places.
I've seen you with the wagons with the puppies.
Yeah, with the wagons.
And the residents there just go crazy. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yep. And Valentine's Day is really popular too. A lot of people will buy puppy grams for their loved ones. It beats card and the candy.
That's right. Hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah. So we do a lot of that. And, that's also a fundraiser for us.
Oh, right.
So we do charge for those puppy grams. And everybody just loves it. We have something new coming up at Tiny Town. If you've all heard of Tiny Town.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's that business south of town that gears toward the little people. And they have different setups in there. There's right now, they change all the time, but Country Vet has a setup there. The post office has one. There's a construction company in there. And all these little people go in and they just pretend that they're running that business. I used to play house growing up all the time, but they get to play all these cool things. Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
really
so
cool.
We are partnering with them, and we're going to be setting up our own display. And it's probably hasn't all come together yet, but we're thinking it might just be a little setup of agility. little people size.
Oh, fun.
And they can use their stuffed animals to kind of go through the weave poles and jump through the hoops and stuff. And we are doing an event there with this litter of puppies that we have. And, can you guess what the theme of this litter is?
I don't know.
Little people.
Tell me, what is it?
Paw Patrol.
Oh my.
Paw Patrol.
That's so great.
The kids are going to go crazy.
They are. And I go crazy whenever I see a new litter like on your Facebook and you named it something. And I'm like, that's so cool that they all have their names. And we'll have pet parents who literally will, some new pet parent will call and be like, well, we rescued from UMDR. We've got our dog there. And then they'll tell me the name. I'll be like, I remember that one. I remember that one, that mom. I remember the puppies. It's a real good way to relate.
Our volunteers are quite creative when it comes to the litters' names. Yes.
I love that. And I think that's a great thing because it does appeal to different people on different levels.
And then, of course, Kat Duncan, our photographer and our social media person, she does a great job theming up the pictures and they somewhat go viral.
I've really noticed I'm going to say in the last 3 years, and I think 3 just because I just remember things that have happened in those 3 years. But we have a lot of rescues here. We have shelters here. But I've really heard so much more about UMDR, between Facebook and then just things that you do in the community, which you do a lot. I've seen you go to VU and actually talk to them and that kind of thing, give presentations.
Yeah.
Getting out there has been a huge game changer, I think. But that takes a lot on you, and you've really done that, and you've expressed that you like doing it apparently because you do a lot of it, which is highly important. Not just for the community though. It's for the dogs because the more you have that, the more the dogs are seen.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that kind of thing. Some of those big and smalls that you do.
Yeah. So I think one thing is, I am a very active director. I founded the organization, and so we are a fairly young organization. We started in 2015. We got our building in 2018. That's when the city ordinance was passed in 2018, and that kind of catapulted the rescue efforts of the chained dogs in our city. But I think one of the biggest things is we work really well with MU, the journalism school. They call all the time for interviews. Sometimes it's just an article, but sometimes it's on camera, and I never say no. I will always find time for them. And I think that's important because we get articles and we get news articles, social media presence from it. And, we want to try to help them hone their skill. And at the same time, it helps us. So it's a win-win situation working with them. So that's one thing. And then I do like giving presentations. I do like educating people about what we do and how our mission of abuse, neglect, chained and pen dogs is, in my mind, one of the most horrific forms of neglect that there is, because it's so long-term. It's for the whole life of the dog. When a dog is chained to a tree, day in, day out, month in, month out, year after year, it's just horrific. Yeah. So I do like talking about that. And I do like, of course, reaching out to new donors and new adopters and new foster parents. So I work it all into one, when we never do just one thing, we're always doing it all. When we're doing an adoption event, we're promoting foster and donations at the same time. It's never just one thing. We're just always trying to look at the big picture and do it all in one swoop, because you can reach a lot of different people in a lot of different ways in a very small amount of time.
It's true. And I think, sometimes when you do get bigger and you don't have the ability to go out and do some of these things, or maybe, you don't, maybe there's someone on your staff who doesn't want to do that. And I know you do a lot of that yourself because I see you out there.
Yeah.
See you at Yappy Hours. I see you with the wagon going around at Lenore Woods, actually.
I'm usually at all of it.
I see it. And it's good because you're the face of your mission, and you want to be out there doing it. And I think that that speaks volumes to people just in general with how important it is in your heart. So I guess we kind of touched on a few things. I've got a question for you though it's in my head and I might be wrong. I'm going to throw this up one at you. Did you have a publication magazine at one time?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I remember that. I think I still have one upstairs because it has a black cat on it.
Yes.
I'm a black cat
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Pet Project magazine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I had to give that up because I couldn't do both. Unchained Melodies started getting very, very busy. And I thought I could do both, and I just couldn't. I mean, I wanted to do one thing and do it well, and you can't do both and do both well.
Right.
And so, yeah.
But yeah, that's how I first
too.
remember you.
Okay.
When I was just thinking, I'm like, I know where
Yeah.
I'm pulling this back from, and that's so funny because
I really, really enjoyed that a lot.
I think that would be.
It was
really
very
interesting.
local, and I took most of the pictures and did a lot of the writing, but there were a lot of people in town that wrote about what their forte was. And it was
really cool.
It was a cool magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really good.
That's neat. And I mean, I don't really know how you got your start with what started you? I always usually like to ask people that too, because it's kind of important for our pet parents to get where I'm connecting you right now. What started you?
Unchained Melodies?
Well, not necessarily even that, but like with the pet, because the magazine was pets too, but what was that?
Right.
What was
the
that?
magazine really was just another extension of trying to educate people about pets. It was very educational.
Okay.
So I moved here. I have told this story many times. I apologize if you've heard this. But
I haven't heard this. I want to know.
Okay. So I moved here from Florida back in 2007.
Okay.
And when we were looking for property, there was this one husky chained to a tree. It was at the end of August. It was blistering hot. He had no water, all the dirt, dust flying everywhere. And I literally told the real estate agent that I wasn't going to look at that property. And she asked me why. And I said, because if this is how these people treat their dog, I'm not going to give them any of my money.
Wow.
And I absolutely, anybody that knows me knows I can be pretty convincing. And I made her sit there and call the listing agent and tell them why I would not look at the house. The house literally had every box checked that we wanted. I moved here with a horse. We had dogs. We wanted property. And I walked away. And unfortunately, I never found help for that husky because I hadn't actually moved here yet. We were just up here looking at property.
Oh.
I reached out to everyone, the rescues, the shelters, animal control, the police, everybody I could think of. And everyone just said, nothing we can do. They're not breaking any laws. And I just could not wrap my head around that a husky can be chained to a tree in August with no water, no one home. I don't know how long he was out there, but we call it the circle of life. By that circle of life around the tree, you could tell he's out there all the time.
Oh,
all the time.
So you never knew that story.
Yeah. So that's how I started. And then I actually reached out to, I was doing rescue in Florida, which is where I moved from. But I was doing shelter work. I was walking the death row runs. And that was before social media. I mean, that was, that at that time it was 2005. And we used to have physical meetings once a month. And someone brought this brochure in that had a chained dog on the front of it. And it was a small island in Florida. It wasn't even that pet friendly, really, nor did we see chained dogs. It just didn't exist. So I went home, I rifled through all of my stuff. I found that brochure and I reached out to that organization that was based in Pennsylvania. And I contacted them and they said, oh, we can't help you. We don't have any help there. We don't have any reps there. And I said, well, you do now. So I signed up as a volunteer. Then the following week I signed up as a foster. Then within 6 months, I was the state rep. And then for a very short period of time, I became the national rep. And then I pulled off and formed Unchained Melodies because it was just too hard trying to do this under someone else's umbrella.
Right.
Understanding business
and not even being in Missouri. I mean, there's a lot of different things here.
Right.
We all have different laws.
So things, yes, and that's actually what helped catapult us as Unchained Melodies too, because we were doing the work for years, just not under our own name. So it's kind of like behind the scenes almost.
Right.
A lot of dogs were getting helped, but the Unchained Melodies name wasn't out
Hasn't
there.
started yet. Well, I'm so glad I asked that
Yeah.
question. 'Cause I did not know that, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. So tell me then, as Unchained Melodies, what is your mission?
Our mission is primarily, or absolutely altogether, chained and penned dogs, abuse and neglect situations. So first and foremost, a chained or a penned dog living outside day after day, year after year, just existing, not really living. Dogs need more than food and water and shelter.
Right.
And that kind of confinement goes against every single natural instinct that a dog has. Everyone. I mean, they need mental stimulation, they need physical exercise. They are pack animals. They need to be with a pack. And our version of a pack is a combination of dogs, cats, and people.
That's right.
So they need to be family pets.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know, and I mean, not to be negative, but I've had people contact me and say, this organization won't help me, or I put in a response for this or that to be requested, and I don't get a response back, or they just simply say no.
Yeah.
What do you say to that? I mean,
I try to, we get those calls every day. There's an epidemic of people rehoming their pets right now.
Yes.
Literally rehoming, like for no other reason other than they're moving, or, the dog got too big, or I don't have time for it anymore. All of the organizations talk about this all the time. I think it's a combination of the economic state that we're in on top of COVID. It was great that the shelters got cleared during COVID, but then reality set in and things opened up again and people don't have time for their dogs. But I get that question all the time, and I do try to explain to people what our mission is and that your dog doesn't need to be rescued. Maybe you want to rehome it, but our resources and our donors donate to us to help the chained, penned, abused, and neglected dogs. And that's where we focus on, and you have to stay focused. We don't pull from shelters. We don't technically rehome pets. We stick to our mission. And sometimes it's not easy saying no if you know a dog that needs help and maybe they're just going to open the door and let it outrun. But if you don't stick to your mission, you can't excel and you can't grow, and we're a young organization and we don't try to do it all with our mission. We stick very closely to our mission. We try to do it all when we're trying to educate what our mission is and educate why dogs need more than food, water, shelter. And all that comes back into play with our training classes so that we can have the dogs be more well-behaved so that they can stay in their home and not end up chained to a tree or not end up at the shelter. All the presentations that we do, we're always educating on the dog's needs.
Well, I have, I don't know how many non-for-profits now that we have did interviews here in the boarding room with, and I have learned, I'm even in the pet world, but everybody has where they need to be. And they need to stay with that. And it's hard for pet parents, general public, to know exactly, they can't help me because they do this or that. And this is one of the reasons why I like doing this. I love the educational part of what we do here. And especially for Columbia, because we do directly Columbia. And I feel like that having you discuss your mission or telling us that hopefully everybody here will understand better and not be like, oh, they don't want to help us, because that's not true.
Right.
And because I know if probably somebody calls you, you're probably going to give them a direction on where to go. You're not just going to leave them hanging.
No, and I also will make sure that they understand too that everyone is in the same situation right now with being full, a wait list of animals to come in. So I will talk to them about, well, what's going on? What's your situation?
Right.
I will be honest with you. I have a hard time when people say I'm having a baby, because I don't know. I grew up with dogs. I'm sure you grew up with dogs and cats. It can happen. So that leads us into trying to help them. Yeah. We have resources. There's another great website out there that I will send them to. I try to make them understand what's going on with the dog when you've got a little baby that's laying there doing nothing, and then all of a sudden it's moving and the dog's like, whoa. Next thing you know, it's upright over the dog. Yeah. So you need to help the dog understand what's going on. You need to monitor that situation, and you need to just let the dog adjust.
Right.
And so that's a lot of times why I don't answer the phone if I'm in the middle of something, because almost every phone call turns into a 20-minute phone call.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I know how
because
that
I'm
goes.
always trying to find out what's going on and how we can help them.
You and I have a lot of the same philosophy. I will help anybody find great pet care. I don't care if it's not me, if it's Creekside. I love Jay now. If it's Jill over at Creature Comforts, heck yeah, I'm going to send them over there.
Yeah, and we offer that all the time too. When they
Right?
say, they don't have time, do you have somebody that can come over and let the dog out midday? Or if you need to rehome your pet, have you really exhausted all your friends and families first?
Right.
And, they'll say that they don't want to take it to a shelter. And I'm like, well, you really don't want it to be in a rescue either. Your dog doesn't need to be rescued.
No.
So this is maybe a little off topic, but, I think our community, all of the communities depend way too much on shelters and rescues to help them out of a very simple situation that they might have.
And, sometimes a simple situation, though, to us pros, because we're pros in different ways. You're a pro and I'm a pro in the pet world. When we see it, we've got community resources. We've got a backup, and they just don't know where to go. And it's awesome to know that there are people that's going to direct them and not just hang up that phone and say, we're busy, we don't have time. So this is another reason why I wanted you to come, because I know that you have that resource and you put it to use. You don't play around with it.
Yeah.
That is
we try to help if we can.
Exactly.
Sometimes we just can't. And sometimes people have just made up their mind that gotta go, then I can help you. But I do try to explain the difference, and people will ask, well, what's the difference between your rescue and another organization? And I try to explain our mission,
I that's great. Though talking about community, you had first time I've known about it and participated last year. You put together a pet health fair, which was phenomenal and so cool. And I know there will be more of those. That will be coming up hopefully soon. I know that you have put some bigger events together and do some really major stuff, along with the smaller things that you do throughout the year. So do you guys have something really cool coming up that we might need to know about?
Funny that you mentioned that, because I think it might be dropping on social media tomorrow.
Awesome.
For the past 10 years, we have done something called Project Runway.
All right.
And it's always been sponsored by Lizzie and Rocco's. It started at Lizzie and Rocco's South store. And it's this tiny little event. We all dressed up. We dressed up the dogs. We had chocolate covered strawberries and champagne and the whole thing. And it got popular. So then we moved it to their larger North store when that opened. And then that got popular. And we moved it over to Maplewood Barn. We grew out of there. And then we headed up to Burr Oak. And so this year, now that we're going into our 11th year of the Project Runway, we are deciding to level it up. And we're turning it into a black tie sit-down gala.
All right.
It's called Ties and Tails.
Oh, Ties and Tails. So you're renaming the whole
event? The event featuring Project Runway.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be still tied together.
Yes.
So people understand what it is.
Yep.
Oh, awesome.
But instead of sitting in a seat eating, a little plate of something like this, you're going to have a nice sit-down dinner. Everybody gets to dress up, turn it into a real event.
Cool.
So we thought instead of having two signature events, why not all roll it into one? Just have one big blowout every year.
Sounds good. And you're probably going to have some sort of raffle type things, or
so the ticket
an auction or something.
Yeah, the ticket price includes, of course, a photo op, a drink by Dogmaster, appetizers. We've got the sit-down dinner catered. We have some surprise guests that'll be acting as servers.
Oh, awesome.
You've got to stay tuned for that. And then yes, we have some silent auction items. They are all experiences this year. And then Project Runway will happen at the end.
And the date for this?
December 7th.
Yeah.
Doors open at 6:30. The location is the Columbia Airport at the event hangar there.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, you really moved up. You're moving up, getting bigger, doing some more stuff. I love to see this. This is how you know things. This is how you know, pet parents, that these people are serious. They are doing new things, adding things, giving everybody a chance to go out and experience some more cool stuff for dogs and for people, because pet parents want to have fun too.
Yeah.
Right. Always. Well, Melanie, I really appreciate you coming out,
Yeah, thank you.
chatting with me
Yeah,
here
it's
in the
fun.
boarding room. I always like talking with you because of all the fun stuff that you know and do. And we will see you next time.